So I want to do a little review and more practice with identifying and writing chords, triads and seventh chords in inversions. Remembering that for triads, there's root position, first inversion, and second inversion. It's in root position. You don't put anything beside the letter name of the triad. First inversion, you have a 6 beside the letter name, and second inversion has a 6-4 beside the letter name. So let's first write some. I want an A major triad in second inversion. Second inversion means that the 5th is the lowest sounding pitch, the 5th of the chord. So if I want an A major chord, I think to myself, that's A, C sharp, and E. That's it in root position. But I have to write it so that the lowest note is this E. So I say E, A, C sharp, and I'm done. Now what if I gave you a chord that looked like this, and I asked you to identify it both by letter name, by type, and by inversion? So I have to say to myself, this is not stacked in thirds, but if I did stack it in thirds, it would be D, F, and A. Therefore, it's a D chord of some sort. Then I must decide, is it major, minor, augmented, or diminished? Well, it's minor, because in major that F would be sharp. So I write a lowercase d. Is it in root position, I say to myself? No. Which member of the chord is the lowest sounding note? It's the F. Therefore, I must be in first inversion, and my symbol is a 6. So I write D6, and I made the D lowercase because it is minor. Let's talk about, let's do a few more triads. I want you to write an E diminished 6. All right, so I say to myself, E diminished would be E, G, and B flat. And because it's a 6, that means that the 3rd of the chord is the lowest sounding note. So I put that first. Then I put the B flat, and I put an E. And I'm complete. Let's write another one. Let's do C augmented 6-4. So I have to say to myself, what notes are in a C augmented triad? C, E, and G sharp. It's a 6-4, so I have to make the G sharp the lowest one. And I go from there. Now let's identify a few more triads, then we'll move to 7th chords. I'm going to move to bass clef. I look at this chord, it's not stacked in thirds. I've got to, in my mind, say, what would it be if I stacked it in thirds? Well, it'd be A, C, E flat, which is A diminished, and the 3rd of the chord is the lowest sounding note, so it is a 6. Not in thirds again. I've got to get it stacked in thirds. I say to myself, oh, it's D, F sharp, and A. I already know that that's in group 2, and I've raised the middle note, so it's D major, And the fifth of the chord is the lowest sounding one, so it's 6/4. Now let's move to seventh chords. We have 4 options in seventh chords. If it's in root position, I have to put a 7 beside it. Otherwise, I'm going to think it's a triad. If it's in first inversion, which again means that the third is the lowest note, I'm going to use 6/5. If it's in second inversion, I'm going to use a 4/3, and I know that the fifth is the lowest. And then third inversion, which involves the seventh being the lowest, and the symbol is 4/2. So let's write a few. We'll go back to treble clef. And I would like an F half diminished 4/2. So I have to say to myself, what notes are in an F half diminished seventh chord? F, A flat, C flat, E flat. And again, I'm going to use my groups or my key signature and adjust from there, whichever method you choose. Then I say to myself, 4/2 means that the seventh is the lowest note. So I'm going to put an E flat, and then I'm just going to put all the rest of the notes. F, A flat, and C flat. Now let's see if you can identify one. I have to stack this in thirds so I can determine what type of chord it is. When I do that, I get C, E flat, G. Uh-oh, I did that wrong. I'm going to put a B double flat. I have a C, E flat, G flat, and B double flat. I say to myself, that is a C fully diminished seventh chord, and which member of the chord is the lowest sounding note? The G, so it is a 4/3. I'm going to do one more. I'd like to have one that is in first inversion. Let's write an A, let's do A major minor, and remember I don't have to put a big M little m because it's already assumed 6/5. So that would be A, C sharp, E for the major triad, and then G natural for the minor seventh. And I have to make sure that that C sharp is the lowest note. So I put the C sharp, and then I can put an E, an A, and a G. And how you line it up doesn't really matter. Whatever works best for you will be fine. Now, I suspect that you're all having trouble with part B, numbers 2 and 3. So I'm going to do a few more that occur in 2 and in 3, since we did 1 together. Let's look at number 12, right here. We have a G sharp in the bass and a 6 above it. So I say to myself, 6 means a triad in first inversion, and I know that first inversion means that therefore the third of the chord is the lowest note. Therefore, this note right here that they gave me is the third of the chord. So I have to say to myself, well, then what is the root? It's E, then there's the G sharp they gave me, and a B. I look back at my key signature, which has 2 sharps, F and C. that key signature does not affect any of these pitches. So I know that I have an E major triad in first inversion. So I'm going to put E6. And I knew it was E major because it's E, G sharp, B. Let's look at number 15. This has just a sharp all by itself. So you say to yourself, well, what does that mean? When a sharp or a flat is just by itself, it's not beside a number, it affects the third of the chord, or the third above the bass note. In this case, that is the third of the chord because we know this chord is going to be in root position because there are no numbers above it. There's no figured bass other than the raised third. So I say to myself, this must be an E, G sharp, B, because here's the E, and that's going to be the root. Therefore, once again, I have E major, but I just put a capital E. I don't have to put any numbers beside it because it is in root position. Let's move to number 3, and I'll pick a few random ones here. Let's look, I want to look at this right here. And the reason I'm looking at that is because it's one bass note with two different figured basses beside it. So first, they're telling us that this E flat is the root of the chord because 5-3 means root position. Therefore, I'm dealing with an E flat, a G, and I have to say B flat because the key signature indicates that the B will be flat. That means I'm dealing with an E flat major triad. I write that and I'm finished. Except that now it's telling me that while I hold that E flat, other notes are changing above it to create a new chord so that now the E flat is the fifth of the chord. It's no longer the root because 6-4 means second inversion of a triad. So I have to say to myself, what chord is E flat the fifth in? It must be A, C, E flat. I can't use A flat or C flat because the key signature doesn't say to. So I now have an A diminished 6-4 because of that. If that doesn't make sense, we will discuss it tomorrow and clarify some things. Let's now go to 21. This is going to be a 7th chord in root position, and I know that because of the figured bass. But the difference is it says to flat the 7th of the chord. So I say to myself, F is the root. Therefore, I have F, A, C, and E flat because the 7th has been flatted. Nothing else will be flatted because it's not in the key signature. So I therefore have an F major minor 7th chord because the triad is major and the 7th is minor. One more in this particular one. Number 26. Again, I'm in root position, so I have a D, an F, an A, and a C, but I have a sharp that's not beside a number. It's by itself. Therefore, it affects the note that is a third above, making this an F sharp. Therefore, I have a D major minor 7th chord. It's a major triad, the minor 7th. Do the best you can tonight, and you'll be able to ask questions tomorrow, and we'll clarify it all. Good luck.